Hey, worship teams, welcome back. Thank you so much for hanging with us. We appreciate you guys as we had a little bit delay in our start. But welcome to the worship team training hangout. And man, we are excited. We got a fantastic show for you this morning. And we are ready to say a special welcome back to the beautiful and lovely Stephanie Kelly. How are you, Stephanie?
Doing well. How are you, Brandon?
Good. Yeah, it's been so long. You've changed. I remember when you were this high, and now you're like this. You've grown so much.
I've grown so much.
But you have grown because now you're living in Rhode Island, right?
We are in the island of Rhodes, as I like to call it. We were previously in the crest of Ridge and the Diego of San, and now we're in the island of Rhodes. Um,
Okay, I'm watching the OMG get out of here. Okay.
so yeah, it's been crazy. We're living out of boxes, and but it's been really fun.
Yeah.
Cold. It's like 30-ish degrees, but it's it's like a serene kind of calm right now.
Awesome.
So yeah, glad to be back.
Yeah, good. We're glad that's over. Man. Well, glad you're here, and guys, we are glad that you are here. Unfortunately, we have both Timmons and Tony are out this week. They're both recording, and Swift, hey, who knows where he is? He's on his own. But it's great to have you. Be sure to catch us on the next few episodes. We're going to have music lesson with Stephanie Kelly. That's going to be a lot of fun. Also, we have Sarah Kelly coming up and Jaden Lavick coming up, so be sure to keep close to that. Also, Power Workshop in New Jersey coming at you. Hey, March the 13th to 14th, 2015. That's next week. And after that, we're going to be in your town, Stephanie, at Rhode Island. And hopefully, maybe Stephanie can be with us, but I think she's not going to be, but she can be. So kind of mystery. Don't say anything, mystery.
Okay.
All right, so that's the March 21st. And last week, we had this awesome webinar with Tony Guerrero, and that was just fantastic. So those of you who are watching, thanks so much for that. And thank you for joining us today. If you're connecting with us through Google, YouTube, Instagram, well, you can't do Instagram really, but you can get the highlights and everything, the photos. Also Facebook. So guys, thank you so much for joining and subscribing to Worship Team Training Hangout. If you want to message us for today's questions or comments, please do so on our Twitter at WorshipTT or hashtag Worship Team Training at Worship Team Hangout. So, introducing our guest for today, Rob Carona. Awesome dude. He is a veteran recording artist, and he used to actually play with a lot of top-name country artists. Really awesome guitar player, great singer, great songwriter, public speaker, and worship leader. He is the founder of Songsmith Creative and director in the SOTN organization, through which he teaches church worship teams, Christian artists, everything about songwriting and how to unlock their creative authority. How do you like that? Also, he just had a brand new baby girl added to his awesome family. So from Songsmith Creative, please welcome Rob Carona. How are you, Rob?
I am doing great, trying to stay awake, because newborn babies don't let you sleep very much. But
Right.
We're here, and it's a beautiful day.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us as we had started late. Stephanie, you too. Great to have everybody here today. So let's get right to it. We got our first question. We are talking about leading worship beyond or above the noise. So what is making our lives in this world so noisy? Stephanie.
I think overcommitment, overcommitting. Just in the last week, I mean, I packing and moving, and I mean, it felt to me in my own personal life like I was scheduled from like every half hour, and then so I think if we don't build in time within those overcommitments, to just meet with the Lord and to spend time hearing from Him, I think that that's critical to our mental health, really, and our being able to live within some of the noise. I was able to find in the midst of the boxes and the packing just some note cards that I had written with scriptures, and I found it of like all the things that I couldn't find, and I just put one scripture up on the fridge, and it's like even just walking past that and building in a quick little devotional meditation on that one scripture makes all the difference. So I think being intentional within the noise, and then if there's any way to silence some of the noise and to not be as committed, really ask for the Lord's wisdom as to how He wants you to spend your time. That will really help.
Yeah, awesome. Rob, what's your thought on that? Why is our world so noisy? What's making it so noisy?
Yeah, actually, that's exactly my thought as well. I put, knowing when to say no to things is a really big missing thing that we think we need to just run and run and run after God, and all these opportunities are created for our benefit, when in actuality we create our own mayhem.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one aspect, focusing in on, in this season, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. There are other things to do, but maybe it's not right now. And compartmentalizing that and really going after what God has for you in that moment, in that year, in that month, whatever that is. And I think that reduces a lot of the noise, because you're not constantly feeling this pressure, like we were talking about before the show, of if I'm sitting at home and doing nothing, I feel this anxiety of I should be doing something.
Yeah.
And it's not, we have to worship from who we are and not what we do. And that reduces a lot of the noise. And I think there's always that go-to thing of, it's social media, we need to disconnect and spend more time. But I think that a lot of the noise, we have to really decide how much is being created spiritually, by what we face as worship leaders, and how much is actually being created by our own actions and mentalities and stuff, and is that self-fulfilling stuff. Busy schedules, and then really not being transparent. It's the Christian culture, and I think the world as well, is this, how are you? I'm fine.
Right.
And deal with our own noise on a inside, we isolate, and I think we can reduce the noise when we start to be more transparent with people, because we start worshiping in community instead of trying to figure it out on our own.
Yeah, so that kind of leads us into our next question. You're kind of speaking it right now. Stephanie, how can we better engage our communities of worship? I mean, Rob was a great point talking about the relationships. Go.
Right. Authenticity with some boundaries, I think, is good. You don't want to be so authentic and so transparent that all of a sudden, your personal life now is exposed in such a way that maybe a hindrance or whatever, because we all have issues. That's just kind of off the top of my head. I think really asking the Lord to show you what you do need to be focused on, because just again in my own life, this week, even though we're living out of boxes and we've made this crazy move all the way, from San Diego, Ridgecrest, Southern Cal to Rhode Island, I have been intentional about cooking for my husband. He just made a comment that he needed some boiled eggs to take because of his schedule, and I did that, and it seems like a little thing, but when I was crazy working and doing all this stuff for the churches, and I love that, I definitely feel called to that, I was probably neglecting some of those little things that help my husband do what he needs to do, and I just feel like more peace in my life knowing that I've been able to intentionally help him, and I know that will reflect in my worship leading. I know that some of that anxiety that I felt from just not being able to be the helpmate that I needed to be for him, and just doing simple things, doing his laundry, in a timely manner and having it ready for him, and him not having to search through stuff, like that is just as much of our calling as, married people, I'm speaking to the married people now, helping your helpmate, that's going to reflect in your worship positively, because that's one more thing that God is pleased with, and that's important. So,
sorry to interrupt. I mean, you're right. It is interesting how when we take care of the things that need taken care of, it eases the anxiety. It eases our nervousness about the situation, because that's how, God does not want us to be leading worship.
right, when we're anxious and we feel like we've been, not honoring our spouse the way we need to, and all of that, I know for me, especially since, women are like spaghettis and men are like waffles.
I have no idea.
You haven't heard of that book? It's a really good book. I'm taking all of my spaghetti into my worship leadings, times, and it's all in there mixed in together. And
yeah. Do you, Rob, do you find that to be true or similar? What's your thought on that?
What? How like your personal life?
Well, let's not talk about Stephanie, because we've done enough of that already. But how about we talk about the, getting things under your belt, so to speak, before leading worship?
So I'm sorry, you're gonna have to clear getting things under your belt. I just want to make sure I'm answering this in the right.
Yeah, meaning like
way.
Okay, such as, we learn how to take care of the things that need taken care of before we lead, so that they're not a hindrance to us.
I don't know. I think that I come from a different perspective on that, because life is life, and if you try to get a handle on it,
yeah, exactly. All right. So let's go there, because for some folks it may be that way, that you need to get things taken care of before you lead, and others it's really more about being in the moment.
Yeah. You have to be able to navigate, and your foundation for your worship, and your what I call your why, the depth of your why you're even doing this thing, has to be at a level that when those little things come and your life gets hectic, and opposition comes, and just little frustrations and all that stuff, you might even be a lot of good stuff happening. The foundational understanding of how and why God loves you, and then the why that you're worshiping Him back and choosing to lead other people into that, day in and day out and on a weekly basis, is you have to settle that, so that's just a little check on my brain. Okay, cool, let's do this, and you're focused. Otherwise, if you're constantly dealing with that struggle, oh, I'm okay to lead worship this week. Oh, I'm dealing with this thing. Oh, no, I'm not ready yet. You have to be consistent, and if you're not at that point, you should take a step back and look at that.
Yeah, good. And for a lot of worship leaders, that's true. I think that we have to straddle the fence on both sides of what's reality right now, what's in the here and now, and what are the things that I've walked away from, and how do I deal with it. Let's put this in context to maybe the volunteer that's just on the worship team, because we have a lot of worship leaders that have that concern. For instance, our friend Veronica that wrote in, her question is, how can we encourage our volunteers to see themselves as worship leaders too? Stephanie, want to take that?
Sure. I think anyone who is up on stage is perceived, whether they realize it or not, as a worship leader, and so they are a worship leader, and so I think knowing your people well, knowing their strengths, helping them operate in their strengths. If you have a good worship leader on your team already, use them as a worship leader, If you have a great guitar player that has the potential to be a worship leader, start using them as a worship leader. Have them lead one song. Allow people to operate in their giftings. Help them get better in their giftings, and also just help them understand that they are a worship leader. I mean, you could make the argument, I think, that anyone in the congregation too is a worship leader because their voice is
Right.
contributing to worship, and so it really doesn't matter, I think, where they are positioned within the actual, sanctuary or room or whatever. I mean, they're contributing to the worship leading of that time. So I think it just allow people to be who God created them to be. And I mean, some people will have different roles, but as a worship leader and someone I'm saying now responsible for that worship time, that musical congregational community time, we have to get to know our people well and then allow them to operate in their giftings.
Good word. Good word. Sheila writes this. Her question was, how do you handle friction among team members? Rob, you want to take that one?
Oh, you give me that one.
You don't have that one, do you? You don't have that in your church.
Yeah. Discipleship is such a big part of the worship community, and that sometimes can be tucked away because, hey, we got to get this rehearsal done. We got to play on Sunday. We got to learn these new songs. We have so much. We're all the artists. We're the creative minds. We don't think on that level, and so when those personal strifes come and stuff, we kind of attack them on hitting it when it comes instead of proactively setting up a community that deals with it. So I think discipleship, stressing family, and making time and actually scheduling things and meetings. And nobody likes more meetings, but it really is important to disciple your team and to set up expectations way beforehand when somebody joins the team to say, hey, this is how we deal with things. And I think just if there is some friction between two team members is just you got to just sit with them and talk it out, and it's okay to be transparent. We're a family. You got to, we're a family. We're a family. We're a family, and honor everything you do. It's always a culture of honor, within the church, and then you have to decide from there. If somebody can communicate well, honor the other person, and resolve, great. If not, are both of those people still, viable worship team members? And that's a tough call to make sometimes.
Yeah, and what you have to say in that regard also has a lot to do with leadership that's being both on the stage and off the stage. Stephanie, real quick, can you tell us what's the difference? Is there one?
The difference between leadership on stage and off stage?
Yeah, is there a difference?
I mean, I think there is a perception that if you're on stage, whether this is right morally or not, is it the case? But if you're on stage, you're perceived as being a leader, so therefore you really are, in someone's eyes and in God's eyes, of course, but held to a higher standard. Are you really
I like standard.
Standard?
I like that.
I mean, the bottom line, I think, is that no, there's really not a difference, because we are all leaders of Christ, disciples of Christ, rather, and Christian leaders in our community. So our lives need to reflect that, period, whether we're literally on a stage or not.
Yeah.
That was a really roundabout, long, confusing way of saying that.
Yeah, it was, but I think it worked. Not bad. Great having you on the show, Steph. Thanks so much for joining us, Steph. See you. I'm just kidding. So, Rob, tell us real quick. Tell us about Songsmith Creative.
So, it's something that came out of some time at a worship school at Bethel School in Reading. If you guys are familiar with that, I got connected with some amazing people there, and the SOTN thing that you were talking about is actually called Sounds of the Nations.
Okay.
And they are a group of global worship leaders, musicians, songwriters, artists, engineers, whatever, in that world, and they go out to the world, and they look for where cultures have been stolen, where missionaries have taken identities, where the enemy has a foothold, and actually hand cultures back their identity through worship, like in Africa and stuff like that. So Songsmith Creative is my own piece and my calling of that, because I just have a heart for the local church to be able to write their own songs and to be able to craft what the Holy Spirit is saying in their community for their calling, and put it into a song form that people can engage with and relate to at a level that people want to hear, and that will go out, and that we don't have to just wait for these, Jesus Culture and Vineyard and Bethel to provide us with these worship songs that don't really connect with our congregations.
Yeah.
We can, and so that Songsmith Creative is a training resource for just like what you guys are doing here at Worship Team Training, but specifically focusing on how to craft a high-level song that people can engage with, and that carries a creative authority for and from the heart of your church community and your city and your region.
Awesome. I love that. Awesome. Thank you. Well, Rob, thanks for being here, man. It's great to have you today, and we look forward to having Rob back, because we're going to share a little bit more things with Songsmith Creative. So, Rob, thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. And Stephanie, as always, can't say enough about you. I mean, it's been so long. It's so awesome to have you back. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me back. Love it.
And you're welcome. And to the other Wahoos, well, they'll just have to join us back on the rest later on this month. But guys, we thank you for joining us today here at Worship Team Hangout, the Worship Team Training Hangout. And last, what I'd like to conclude with is that we're talking a lot about transparency. How we lead worship above the noise, and it's important for your congregation because you are modeling Christ as you lead. And it's not about being perfect. It's just about being real. The way that you walk in the freedom of Christ is also the proof of how God is framing you. So we hope that you take all of these conversations to heart this morning. We thank you for joining us. Be sure to catch us back. We're going to have an awesome music arranging video with Stephanie Kelly. It's going to be great. And also we're going to have Rob come back and talk more about songwriting, so that's going to be exciting. Sarah Kelly and Jaden Lavick is going to be coming up next, so be sure to stick around for that, and we'll hook you up with the links as soon as we get everything on track, so that's going to be great. And also be sure to join us back at worshipteamtraining.com. If you're interested in joining our mentoring program, Stephanie is a part of that, and she, myself, our awesome lady Jen Hoagland, who is our coordinator, and we have our other instructors that would love to help you in your weekly journey as a worship leader or volunteer on a worship team. Be sure to head back over at worshipteamtraining.com/mentoring, and also go to /workshops. If you'd like for us to come to your town, remember, we're coming to you, New Jersey, next weekend. Looking forward to it. Donna Kelly. And then also coming up in Rhode Island where Stephanie is, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll say hi to Stephanie from the window. Hopefully she'll join us as well. But guys, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a blast and a pleasure. Thank you. May God's blessings flow to you and your worship team, and we'll see you back next time on the Worship Team Training Hangout. See ya.
Bye.